Imagine being a Knights fan, Miles. Me. This roster is gorgeous. It has been gorgeous for a long time, and they've just done nothing with it.
It's a bit difficult to describe into words, isn't it? You look at the steps that they were taking. They made the finals a couple of years in a row. Ponga was looking pretty good, and right now he's turned into the bloke who's made of glass. He gets a little hit and he's off for the rest of the game. And there's a bit of attitude there, I think, from Ponga. And at this point in time, I don't know where Adam O'Brien has got this full sense of confidence from, because he was part of a premiership. He was the assistant coach on a premiership winning team. I think for the Knights, I don't want to be too negative because they do have a good roster. They've got a couple of decent signings coming in. We got Jackson Hastings coming in, Adam Elliott especially. I really like Adam Elliott coming in. And
Is he your signing of the year for the Knights?
So easily. I think with Adam Elliott, he showed last year at the Raiders, after having a bit of a falling out with the Dogs, that he is still a very good player. The Raiders used him quite well in that middle forward role, and I expect him to pick up a bit of the slack that they're going to lose from David Clemmer going out of the team, because Clemmer provided a lot of offloads for this team, and a lot of that go forward, and Adam Elliott is a strong player for them. But we think with the Knights, their biggest problem over the last couple of years is, since Mitchell Pearce left, who is their halves?
Yeah, look, Jackson Hastings is a great pickup in that spot, but it doesn't matter. I'm a bit depressed about the Knights, because I've looked at this team every year and I've just said, that's a great forward pack. That's a really exciting spine. I love Jaden Braley. I love Kalen Ponga. I loved Pearce back in the day. I loved their pack back in the day, the Safidi brothers. At that origin level, Frizzell, Barnett, Clemmer, who's gone, Adam Elliott. I love Adam Elliott, but I just keep going through this cycle with the Knights where I love their signings and I love their players, and they just don't do anything. I don't have any faith in this team, and I feel like you've got a bit more faith than I do. But on their best day, though, they can beat anyone. Yeah. And if they came out and made the 8, I wouldn't be surprised. I know a few Knights fans, and I think I've picked up a bit of their frustration. And I'm a Para fan, so I've been through the Spoon years, and I understand, how you feel, Knights fans. I want to look at some of these signings first, though, because, we've mentioned Hastings, Elliott. Let's go through a few more. Gamble, Marzu, Hetherington. Hetherington potentially going to start on the edge, I've been hearing, which I'm not a fan of. But Marzu on the wing is, if you haven't seen Marzu, best tackle breaker in the game, per game. Last year, just one of the most exciting wingers in the comp. He will finish everything Ponga throws to him.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you've got to remember as well, if they play Marzu on one side and they've got Dom Young on the other side, they're looking so much stronger from kick returns. With Ponga not being the biggest bloke in the world, if he's going to be playing fullback, then he can just pass it off to one of them, and they're going to be making some good inroads early on in sets. I think Jack Hetherington playing on the edge thing is interesting. I think they got rid of 2 guys who had a bit of screws loose in Barnett and Clemmer, and just replaced it with another bloke who can pull off a nice hide shot and miss a few weeks. Playing on the edge is something I've never seen him do, so that'd be pretty interesting. Gamble's the other interesting one for me as well. I can see him either slotting into that Kurt Mann position where he, can either play 6, 7, maybe a bit of lock.
They like that. They're kind of Watson back in the day too. They do like that.
They love their utility player, yeah. So if Kurt Mann ends up taking back that 6 spot, which I think he should, Jackson Hastings and Kurt Mann, probably not the worst to go in there, as opposed to Adam Clune and Jake Clifford is what they had last year. So it's definitely an upgrade, but I think that Ponga needs to stay at fullback. There's been a lot of talk about him playing 6, and that's just a no-go from both of us here. You're not that excited about him, but with Frizzell there, he tries his guts out every game, and Dane Gagai went back as well, and he's a comparable Origin player, but last year he missed so many tackles, and it was very un-Dane Gagai-like. And when we went into the Origin series, I was like, are Queensland even going to pick Dane Gagai? Because he actually missed, I think it was the most tackles last season. So, I mean, is he over the hump?
Knights fans for a second, though, because let's look at the upside.
Yep.
So you mentioned Dom Young about 20 minutes ago. But it's Dom Young in the World Cup. Whew. Like, if Josh Adokar hadn't have scored 37 tries in 4 games or something, then Dom Young would have been the player of the tournament. Like, he was on fire. He destroyed Samoa, and he turned it up. If he can bring that form back, and you got Greg Marzhew, like you said, you're right. Ponga probably doesn't take as many returns. He probably focuses on attack more. And yeah, you're right. On paper, it's a great roster. I'm looking out there. Yeah, Gagai, Bradman, Best is a freak. Like, you couldn't build a better center and wing combo there to go with Ponga, Hastings. Like, on paper, it's a top 8 team, but it's been a top 8 team. If I was playing a video game, I'd pick them because it's a great roster, but they just don't get it right. And maybe that's Ponga being their leader. Maybe it's the attitude he brings to the team. You lose a guy like Clemmer. I think he's more the attitude they need. Frizzell should be their leader. He plays the way, he plays the way they should be playing. But yeah, I know it's a great roster. It's a great roster. Like,
I think the one thing that I would look at that's very telling, and we sometimes talk about in any club, any code really, is when a player has too much influence over the front office. And when you see a guy like Kalen Ponga, who's just so heavily protected, he's an endangered species almost. When he has such a big off-field indiscretion and the front office really fails to do pretty much nothing about it, and they go, "Oh, don't worry about it, Kalen. We'll get you next time." Warning. It's a bit like the guy is the club captain, and you expect better out of him. And sometimes I watch him play, and I just think, does the guy even want to play rugby league? I know he's just got that. He's got that look on his face where he's like, "Oh yeah."
But he's so good.
He's great,
and you see him for Queensland. He's the best player on the field in Origin games all the time. He reminds me a little bit of vintage Jared Hayne.
Yeah.
And, Jared Hayne was one of the best players in the game when he was playing, but he made everyone around him worse. And there was a great example of where Parramatta didn't have Jared Hayne for a couple of years. We're top 4, or top 8, top 4, top 8 a couple of times. He came back for a season, 15th, I think they were. He left again, top 4 again. These guys that are too talented sometimes bring a bit of an attitude of relaxation and low intensity, and I think some of the other players pick it up from them. Yeah, and that's not the attitude you need leading a club.
Yeah, what they always say is that talent doesn't beat hard work when hard work beats talent. Sometimes it's one of those things where the harder you work,
doesn't work,
if talent doesn't work, you can't be relying on talent. And it's one thing that is told across every sporting code, I would assume. And just with Kalen, it's all about, can he take that step up and lead by example?
Tell you what, with Kalen though, I asked our rugby league machine to write an article on the top 5 most exciting players in the game right now, and it put Kalen Ponga at number 1.
Yeah.
So the machine thinks he's going to have a big year. We'll see if it happens.
Do we think he's going to have a big year?
That's
and the
Knights.
Question. Do we think the Knights are going to have a big year?
I'll let you go first. Do you have them in the top 8? Do you have them in the bottom 5?
Again, I think with the Knights, it's more an attitude thing than a actual roster talent thing. Kind of similar to the Titans. They've got a lot of good players there, but with the Titans, it's different. Their club identity really has put me off from last year, and the Knights now, same thing. Like, it's, what are they trying to do? Like, they were rebuilding for a long period of time, and now they find themselves in a bit of a deep hole. And Adam O'Brien, I don't know how much trust they've got in him as well, and it just doesn't look good. So for me, I'm going to be going with the probably majority on this and putting them down in the bottom 5. I don't think they're spoon worthy again, but
the roster's too good. I'm looking at the teams here, and I can't find 5 teams to put beneath them. In my head, I look at them and I go, you got to be 10th, 11th at least, with that roster. But I've got them about 13th on my list. So just in that bottom 5. Again, wouldn't be surprised if we're proven wrong. I think their upside is almost top 4.
Right.
Like,
if Ponga can stay on the field and Jaden Brayley can stay on the field for long
Brayley,
periods of time, then I think the rest of it kind of falls into place a little bit. But right now they haven't proven that to me or you. And therefore bottom 5 is, I think, a good place to put them.
Newcastle Knights, big season coming up. If you're a fan, drop a comment. Let me know how it feels. I put myself in your shoes and I nearly cried. So we'll see you next preview.